Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for still being here. I know it's a long day already. We'll try to probably cover different parts of the topic related to localization. And so in our last two sessions, which we have done in 2023 and 2024, there were a lot of topics discussed. But we thought that we'll try to bring in a different variety in one of the topics we will discuss, which possibly can talk about nationalization across the region. So we have very experienced and esteemed guests with us over here, and they have a lot of experience in this topic, across the region. We also have a guest from Saudi, who comes with a lot of experience. So between Fatima, Fahad, and Muhammad, we'll try to cover some topics which might be of relevance if you are a company which is operating across the whole region. So with that, we'll start the panel discussion. Some data, I think, which we have been talking all across, but maybe a data for the region, which we all can relate to. So Emiratisation as a concept, though we are relating it now, but if you look back, it probably started in the year 1990, enhanced in 2021 with the whole NAFIS program, but it has been there for quite a while. When you look at Saudi, it has been there since 1985 and was enhanced in 2011. Kuwait was in 2000, Qatar 1962, Oman 1998, and Bahrain from 1970. So what we all are talking about is a topic which has been there for quite some time. It's just that it has gained a bit more relevance with the growth and the progress which we are seeing in the region. More data. In UAE, as Her Excellency was talking a while earlier, in 2024 alone, 131,000, UAE nationals or Emiratis joined the private sector, which is a big number. In Saudi, 2.37 million, Saudi nationals are part of private sector employment, which is a great number. In Kuwait, we had 78,000, joining in 2024. Qatar 2,200, Oman 8,300, and in Bahrain 6,000. And I'm talking about data for last year, which is a big number, which we all are referring to. So whichever company you come from, whichever company you are representing, the reality is that nationalization is becoming a big part of success of all organizations, is the way or the strategy which you are taking to make it successful in your organization. So we'll have some questions, for our panel, just to enlighten us more about how are they doing things in their respective organization and in their experience where they come from. First question, which I'll have, we can start with Fahad. Fahad, you come with a lot of experience, both in public and private sector. In your experience, how are you balancing between hiring young nationals and at the same time addressing very critical skill requirements for the respective sectors which you have worked for?
Can you hear me? First of all, thank you so much for having me and inviting me in here. It's a pleasure to be in here and seeing the growth and the progress within this topic. And thank you for the question. I think it's a very good question. When it comes to balancing the, I would say, hiring youth and young talents, and also addressing the niche skills. So first, I'll start with, I think has been mentioned in the previous discussions, the role of I would say, the government and regulatory sectors of enabling the private sectors when it comes to incentives, when it comes also to set certain regulations onto that aspect, and also the role of the private sectors when it comes to inventing certain programs within its companies. So I will just mention multiple, I would say, programs, since I've worked in multiple sectors, petrochemical, minings, and now I'm in defense. So one of the main programs that we have been focusing on in the past years is the vocational programs. So where you inject, I would say, young nationals into your company, and when it comes to the development of these programs. So we take high schoolers who are, scoring certain level of in their degrees, and then we take them through a 2 years, 3 years program. It depends on the sector itself. That by itself has beefed up the, I would say, the increasing of nationals in these kind of, I would say, blue-collar jobs. And when it comes to the professionals, or I would say white-collar jobs, mostly there are certain programs that we work with the universities when it comes to the adjusting their curriculums, and we go also, so I worked previously in mining. So we had an initiative that we go to villages and small places where we intervene with the schools there, and we sponsor them for certain students and for certain initiatives. That has helped us because we operate in remote areas. That has helped us a lot in making sure that we secure jobs for in these areas. That's helped the company, and also that's helped the young nationals to be, integrated within the private sector. The last point, when it comes to the leadership. So there are programs that offered by, I would say, the government, and also there are programs that offered by the companies. So as you may know of heard, there are recent programs that has been introduced, like MISC 2030 leaders, that is targeting a top-notch leaders to be trained and going through a 1-year journey. And those leaders will be sent abroad, and also will be interacted with prestigious universities, and also will do certain business cases. That's what I would say from governmental perspective. From private company or private sector perspective, there are internal, I would say, programs for leaders and also for technicals. So for example, the knowledge transfer programs. So we have launched knowledge transferring programs for the young, Saudi or national talents, to ensure that whomever expert within the organization, regardless expats or global talents, that transfer the knowledge through certain set of KPIs, through job shadowing and so on and so forth. I believe that would be, to sum up, some of the initiatives and the efforts that has been made through this.
Thank you, Fahad. Fatma, maybe some opinion from you. You come with such a great experience of supporting Expo, and then companies like Majid Al Futtaim, and now doing consulting to so many organizations. So your views on the topic?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's youth these years have a privilege, because in our time, we didn't have so much focus on, we really had to go the hard way. So if you were born in the 1970s or the 1980s, 90s, probably you know what I'm talking about. Anil wanted really to bring a very important topic here, especially when it comes about the maturity of the region in terms of localization, since we're speaking about the GCC. Most of the labor laws in the GCC probably goes back maturing in the 1980s, and most of them mentions clause about including local talent into the nation or into the businesses. What's interesting is the journey of the UAE is not very different than the journey of the Gulf itself. Having said that, landscape matters, because if you compare Qatar, the UAE, and Kuwait, we share a different talent landscape and structure when it comes to people and welfare, versus Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, who are more easily to localize when people go through it. Having said that, if you have realized between the 1999, going back to the data you shared, until the 2000, most of the GCC countries focused on grooming their talent, young ones or not, to make them, polish them, make them attractive to the sectors to take them. And then regulations started humping in by ministries starting from the 2000 onwards. What's so beautiful is since the 2010, countries started really populating visions about how they want to look like in the 20s and in the 30s. And the local talent integration or agenda became part of this vision. So then we talk about the transformation the GCC took in terms of integrating. There are some countries like Oman and Saudi Arabia who did amazingly, started earlier when it comes, but what served them the most, the 50%, 60% local talent versus the UAE, because we are 10% overall the population. What I really saw for the first time ever in my 20+ years of experience shifting, the UAE nationalization or Emiratisation percentage really peaked with NAFIS. So it was for the first time seeing 9% versus 3%, stagnant to 2% in the past 20 years. So actually initiatives like NAFIS made a big difference. So I really wanted to share this impression with the people who worked probably in the region and outside the region, because it's quite important to know the backgrounds and the backlogs.
No, thank you very much. Very, very important. I was just talking to Mohammed. Mohammed was in Oman a day before. So in his role, he's head of Emiratisation, but he's also head of people for audit. Now that brings an interesting angle of how he's managing the whole talent within KPMG when it comes to the whole Gulf region. So your views, Mohammed?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Well, I'm truly honored to be here, and thanks to Task for arranging such an incredible platform for this knowledge sharing. While I proudly head Emiratisation at KPMG, but I'm also an auditor, so I couldn't stop myself from doing a high-level calculation of the number of years of experience that we are collectively bringing here, which makes this forum a fantastic knowledge-sharing platform, right? So maybe a couple of points maybe to add to what my colleagues mentioned here. Youth has been a focus in KPMG for us. Not only we empower them, but we were the first of the big four in the UAE to establish a formal youth council. And by that, I don't mean a formality that we post on social media that's our youth council. No, in fact, we heavily engage with them, empower them. We've reached to a stage that our youth run most of our engagement activities in KPMG, be it national celebrations, be it monthly engagements, because they're the closest to the largest population of Emiratis that we have. So there's no one better than to sort of get insights from. So we do invest heavily in that. And obviously, they're the future, right? And equally important is to focus on the experienced Emiratis. I think this is one thing that, in my mind, requires to put a lot of effort in, because especially in our field of the Big Four, it's not very easy to find Emiratis at the partner, director, or even at some point in certain sort of pockets at managerial level, right? So this is where we need to sort of focus efforts in terms of realigning some of the skills. We know in the market there's a lot of experienced Emiratis, for example, in internal audits, right? So what we need to do, or what we have already done, we have identified the talent in those sectors, in those departments to sort of upskill their consultancy background and experience, and enable them to excel in their roles in KPMG when we hire them, because we believe that we can't have all the Emiratis at the junior level. We need a mix of experience and youth. And I think most importantly, we need to create a pool of talent who the youth will be aspired to become, whether it's managers, directors, and partners.
Thank you, Mohammed. I think we have a luxury, or we are very proud that we also support the organizations where Fahad and Mohammed come from. And I can echo the fact of what I see whenever we visit your office. I was based in UAE, moved to Saudi 4 years ago, and I can definitely see the kind of program which is happening, right from, so confidentially, without sharing too much of details about the project, which we did for Fahad's company, the starting point when the project was given to us was localization. Like these many number of people to be hired, they have to come from a very specific industry, but they have to be Saudi nationals. That's how the whole program started. And for a moment, we also got a bit scared that whether this is possible or not possible. In the program for 6 months from now, and I can say that we have been able to deliver, of course, through the support of the institutions based in Saudi, the whole program back to the organization, and then we are more confident of doing it. So representing private sector, we are a consulting organization. I can very, very proudly say, like we heard great things in the first 3 panels about how great things are happening in UAE, but I think similar things are happening in other countries. So be bold in taking those efforts in terms of localize talent as well as other aspects of your regional presence. Next question, for you, Fatima. So, a lot of these programs which we are talking about talks about quotas, percentages, and things like that. Now, that's good. I mean, that's very nice, right? I mean, a lot of us are adhering to it. But what's beyond that? I mean, how do we measure the quality of nationalization efforts? I mean, is it just quotas, or what's your recommendation to, because it's all coming, right? I mean, we are talking the first phase of numbers. Now the next phase will be all about quality. So any views on that? Yeah.
Allow me to answer a question back to the audience. How many of you are working on Emiratization and quotas? How many of you think quota works? Quota works? Does it deliver numbers? I think with NAFIS initiative and support, the UAE private sector proven excellence when it comes to bringing numbers of Emiratis. So it became really good. And how many Emiratis do you have? And that's where your Emiratization is being measured. But how well do you do your Emiratization is the missing part of the puzzle. The beautiful thing about me sitting here and being very independent in my thinking and in my saying is me not reporting to any entity. So I run my own firm, and I have 20 years of experience. And you must have seen my article when I said, stop this Emiratization madness. It took me 8 months, actually, to detach myself from the operations and what's happening, because I really wanted to see clarity about this localization and Emiratization. I wanted to understand it not being inside the storm, but being outside the storm, because it could be a little bit clearer. And what I will share with you today might be a little bit of all the discussions and the operational topic that have been shared by very, very experienced and expertise, especially the amazing data I've never seen ever done by an entity like Task provided last year and this year as well. It takes a village to raise a child. So Emiratization actually works if we have a well-integrated ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, it does not need only a government, a regulatory initiative like NAFIS, and a private sector. It needs education system that output based on the need. It needs talent that is aware of their participation and purpose when they play in the nation's overall agenda. And it needs one integrated agenda. So what I really realized, the UAE and the region have done amazingly when it comes to giving incentives, imposing quotas. Having said that, it became a number game. So we are really good in hiring the local talent and the numbers. But I go back again and I say, what happens to them after hire? I really wish to see not a fragmented approach or multiple initiatives comes and goes, some of them successful, some of them are not. I really anticipate, or I wish to see, a fully integrated country vision with sector vision, education, and talent purpose or talent vision at the same time. And this is what I think could really be a game changer and sustain how localization and Emiratization works. Allow me to end with another question for the audience. You hired Emiratis, right? You achieved the quotas. How many of them stayed? How many of them stayed, integrated, enjoyed, and happy working for you? How many of them have the potential or been identified to be the future leaders in your business?
question to think, yeah. Thank you. So Fahad, the same question back to you. I think by being privileged of spending some time in Saudi, we know the second part of the Nitakat is not about quotas. It's about skills and many things, right? So any thoughts from you?
All right, thank you so much. I'm not going to mention much about what the regulatory or the government, because it is obvious. It is happening, I think, in most of the GCC countries where the support are there, where the programs are being delivered, where I would say, even the agile KPIs or whatsoever. So I'm going to talk about the private sector role. And I believe who's someone that has worked in the private sector, and I've heard it in the previous panel discussions. We have a vital role toward this, honestly. And if we don't act toward our role toward this is not going to be successful. So I echo the point that you said. So you could fulfill your quotas or whatsoever, or your numbers, but are you really designing programs that integrates those talents? Are you really believing in making sure that once you integrate those talents, you are really transferring the knowledge and ensuring that they are part of your, culture and fitting within your organization? So we have to play a very vital role as a private sector. And I will just mention maybe a number of points. I don't want to take much on this point. So I mentioned the vocational programs and previously in my previous answer, and I think that was one of the vital programs that the companies in my country has, especially in the private sector, has started. We have our own academies now in the big companies that are training young high school or graduates. So we're not speaking of degree graduates, and they are integrated within the job. They're doing the blue-collar jobs, and there is a very high level and very high percentage when it comes to productivity, and nationals are involved into these, I would say, low-level jobs. And when it comes to the upskilling and reskillings, we have a big role in this. So a lot of companies are doing joint ventures, I would say, with international OEMs and so on and so forth. So it is our role to ensure that there is part of localization, and specifically coming to the talent, localization are embedded within these agreements. We need to transfer the knowledge. We need to localize the knowledge. And we make sure that this integration happens for our nationals, and making sure that the private sector play their vital role.
Thank you, Vaad. Mohammed, your views?
See, a lot has already been said on quotas, on government initiatives. Maybe from my perspective, just building on what Fatma mentioned, I think it is the ecosystem. And I think it was mentioned in an earlier panel as well, when we look at Emiratisation as a strategic sort of angle and not only quota. And I think we have to really mean it. We have to truly embrace it. When will it work? It will work, in KPMG, I can give live examples. One of the key success factors is the accountability of the senior leaders. So Emiratisation is a recurring agenda item in our board meetings, in our ExCom meetings, in our partners and directors meetings. Frankly speaking, meeting the quota is not even a KPI, because that's given, right? So it's a lot more to it. It's about retention. It's about the bell curve of the performance management. I think that's really, really important, because performance management and KPIs drive behaviors, and often in the past what had been observed in the private sector, some expat colleagues may shy away from giving some really good feedback to Emiratis to coach them, develop them, right? So that doesn't help anyone, neither the business nor the experienced colleagues nor the Emirati juniors, for example, right? So things like that is what we track. So it's a bit more sophisticated and advanced sort of tracking and measuring ourselves accountable more than quotas.
Thank you, Mohammed. In fact, an example to give, and we are part of the private sector, community over here, right? And in one of the programs which we are delivering, in Saudi, which basically is one company and 3 different programs, and it's an international OEM environment. And I'll not get into the details of that, but the first specific need was that after hiring, the next 4 months, all these trainees are supposed to be in a different country, learning from the OEM and come back and deliver. Now, there could be many colleagues of ours sitting here who could be part of the international organizations. And one of the, and you may be doing it, so pardon my repetition, but integrating them into international programs where they learn, also taking commitment back for them that they'll stay probably with you for at least a year or two to deliver that back to the organizations, are many things which companies in this region are doing. So, and I can echo to the sentiment over here that the intent is huge, and that is something which can probably be delivered in many innovative ways. So that's an example which I just remembered based on the conversation here. Next question. Gender inclusive nationalization, right? And again, from a data perspective, in one of the countries in the region, which is Saudi, is 34% already of the workforce, national workforce, and the numbers won't be too different for other countries also. So countries have taken steps, in doing it. But what's your view, Fatima, to start off with? What framework, policies, companies can adopt to have more gender inclusive nationalization efforts? Yeah.
Oh. Can I ask the audience again? How many of you have a human resource strategy in place? How many of you have a DEI integrated strategy in place? Diversity, equality, and inclusion. How many of you have part of it, localization, or is it a separate initiative? So the question is, the entire world is moving toward DEI. We talk about inclusivity of gender, inclusivity of ethnicity, inclusivity of different age groups and different locations. The question here is, Emiratisation is an external initiative or is it integrated initiative? Is the whole philosophy of workforce in your organizations convinced that it is the right thing to do and it is to be an inclusive agenda, or is it just to punch quota and get regulatory off, or you get yourself off fines? So how does that really philosophy sit within your human resource, and how does your Emiratisation sits within inclusivity and sits within overall your human resource competitiveness when we talk about that? So I think it's extremely important to go back inside and think and become more confident in your proposition, competitiveness, and contribution to lands you are operating from and taking advantage with in progress. So instead of just saying, I'm just hitting a quota, I'd like to get rid of these numbers, let's hire the Emiratis no matter where. Because when initiative of NAFA started, and I'll tell you the reaction, since it's a quota-based, 90% plus of the Emirati hires were Emiratis at the front line. So they were not real inclusive or integration when it comes, or believing in the local talent when it became to the private sector reaction. And this is just to share with you how important it is to integrate Emiratisation within your authentic philosophy of DEI, which is a world agenda, into your workforce competitiveness outlook.
Thank you. Fahad, your views, and I'll probably add one more point to that, is the whole inclusivity in the leadership roles, which you both have been part of, in our organizations.
Absolutely. So I would complement the comment that has been mentioned when it comes to the gender diversity, and also when it comes to the organizational level diversity as well, and other diversity and inclusion topics. So again, whatever I have mentioned previously when it comes to certain programs, certain levels, it is also applicable for whether in gender or whether in level. So if we have certain development program or initiatives or incentives whatsoever, or even with our OEMs, our partners, that's applicable to certain levels. And also we are ensuring that we have an integrated talent journey. So it starts from hiring to retiring. I'm not going to say the other word. So basically, that journey has to go through first how you attract that talent, regardless of which gender or which I would say, other elements. And also you ensure that you set the right environment, you set the right learning, I would say, environment for them to grow and to have prosperity within the organization. So my answer would be straightforward and simple. Whatever applicable in my previous examples should be applicable in that aspect as well.
Mohammed?
From my perspective, a few points to add. In my mind, I think the starting point should be to ensure Emiratis are representative in each and every pocket of the business, which again, reflecting back, when I joined KPMG 14 years back, it was, we were a group of 5-6 Emiratis between two different service lines, and where we are today, we're 230 Emiratis across all parts of business and different levels. So I think that's the starting point. And then what do we do after that? I think there's a lot of, see, if you ask me, have I come across any organization that has the inclusivity 100% perfect? I don't think so. It's still a journey, right? But what do we have to do? I think we have to promote that people are different, so from diversity and inclusivity, leveraging from each other's differences and bringing the best from both worlds, as opposed to focusing on the differences in a negative way, right? I think that's really important. But that's not only for Emiratis versus non-Emiratis. I think it's across all types of diversity, whether male and female, whether different nationalities, etc., right? So that's one thing. And when you go into one level of more detail, and again, real-life examples, what we have done a lot is focusing on promoting what I mentioned earlier, both from the Emiratis perspective, but also from the expat perspective. We often come across the new joiners to the private sector coming from, for example, colleges and universities which are not mixed, right? So it's one gender. So I think the transition to the private sector at times requires a bit of work, to make them a bit open-minded, that you'll have male colleagues, for example, things like that, right? But equally important is from the expat perspective, is to explain some of the examples of the cultural aspects of Emirati. So very recently, there was a part of the Youth Council initiative. There was a few slides that have been prepared in terms of what is coming directly from Emiratis that we have in the Youth Council. What's the Emiratis culture like at work? Emiratis driven, family culture, appreciates flexibility, equally wants to be ambitious and grow in the career. So things like that, for us to then increase the awareness with the non-Emiratis. So again, these are some real-life examples that I mentioned from KPMG.
No, thank you, Mohammed. So interestingly, you have touched the whole topic of what are the unique work environment strategies which you can create in your organizations, which possibly will not just attract the talent, but also would help them retain and be there for long term. Would you have some examples of how you do it in your company, or you have done it in the past?
From a retention perspective?
Yes. Yeah.
See, I think one thing which is very, very important also to add to everything I said earlier is when you have representation of Emiratis across different parts, you have to treat them equally as non-Emiratis as well, right? I think the moment you start having different treatment in the expectation to work, KPIs and stuff, I think that's when those differences get magnified, right? While it's equally important to be mindful of the cultural aspects, the benefits from the government, etc. But when not from assessing the performance, I think that's really, really important. And why I'm mentioning this is because what we have seen is when an Emirati is given a role and they expect to, when they are given an ownership and accountability in a role exactly like a non-Emirati, that's when they thrive. That's when they, find the purpose, which was mentioned many times this morning today, right? And for us, that's, I think, one of the key strategies of retention of Emiratis, but also in addition, of course, there's huge amount of investment in learning and development. We've launched Intilaq, which is our soft skills learning pathway, a one-year program that all Emiratis go into. There's a tremendous amount of engagement activities at all sorts of levels, be it with amongst Emiratis, non-Emiratis, cultural events, etc. So also all these sort of things is what we collectively will ultimately contribute to retention. But having said that, I also want to be mindful that there's only 4 firms in the world that does what KPMG does, right? And we cannot expect retention to become 100%, right? Whilst the way I personally look at the big 4 is they're like institutions, they're like universities. I would love to have, Emiratis who will join us, but leave us as brand ambassadors, join our clients, join the government, join regulators with KPMG experience, having had the experience that they deserve, right? I think that's really important. So while there's a lot of investments in retention, but equally, we do always want to make sure that KPMG graduates alumni that will be the brand ambassadors in the country.
Thank you, Mohammed. And Fahad, if you have to give 3, I mean, on the similar question, if you give 3 tips to the audience over here, which can help them, not just attract, but even retain the talent, I mean, what would be those? Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So I don't want to sound repetitive, but I believe there are a lot of things that has been mentioned in the previous discussions and from previous speakers and panelists. But honestly, I believe one of the major things that I've personally sensed dealing with the young talent and the national talents, I believe that has been mentioned previously, sense of purpose. So when you create a sense of purpose for an individual, the monetary or non-monetary would still matter, but would not really matter much as if they are creating an impact. So I've sat with people that has resigned from organization. And as you know, the GCC market is very dynamic and demanding nowadays and in the previous, I would say, 10 years. So most of the people that are starting to look for a job or even accept to go for an interview, it's not because they want to boost their financials. Definitely that will come with the package. Mostly, either they are not seeing themselves, and I personally have my own philosophy, which I call it 40-40-20. 40-40-20 is basically, there are 3 elements that I adapt when I want to move from company to another, or from role to another, or whatsoever. First is 40% on the environment, and the environment itself has 3 circles for me. Inner circle, which represent 60%, and I would say a bit wider circle, which represent 20%. The inner is my team, my superiors, and whatsoever. The second circle, which is I would say the department that I'm navigating or the people that I'm interacting with, and the biggest wider circle, which is the company that I'm working with. That represents for me 40%. The other 40% basically is I'm always asking myself this question: am I learning? Am I growing? Or am I just repeating myself, just doing the job like this? So that's a very important aspect as well. And the last 20, which is basically the compensation or total reward aspect, which is the title, the compensation, and etc. So someone would argue with me in that aspect, but if you really deeply believe and think of that, you would see the purpose is the major aspect. If you create that sense of purpose, through learning, through having the right environment, through showing that they are really contributing to the organization or to the country's success or whatsoever, you will retain your talent and you will have a high level of retention.
Thank you, Fahad. So Fatma, just moving a bit on the same question. A lot of talent which is getting added to either public or private sector is a very young talent. And since morning we have heard that purpose is the most important thing which drives an individual to stay or to quit an organization or to probably stay longer, right? How do would you advise, and this is a question completely now based on the discussion, right? It's not a planned question. How do we really help the young generation find that purpose? I mean, what would be your advice to the talent here, especially from a in a local talent perspective? Like what works in their mind to find that purpose?
I would answer that question. I try to answer that question, but at the same time, I would like to comment on it because there is a very important message I would like to state when I'm being invited by task. Allow me to share with you a very small story. When
Sure.
we wanted to create Emiratisation for the Expo 2020, how many of you have been to the Expo? You've seen the Emiratis there. We wanted to attract Emiratis to come and work. Majority youth, 350 for Expo Academy, young Emiratis. We did not have quota, but we were motivated about creating a legacy for the country. So we said we're bringing 90% talent from around the world. They were going to be here for a small period of time, and it's going to be a pity if Emiratis don't really get to learn with them and be able to replicate a mega event like the Expo. We actually had a great challenge at the beginning to attract Emiratis to work for us or to work with us. We did not pay the best. One of the scariest things for Emirati youth was a temporary program because Expo would have had a start and an end, and nobody feels comfortable getting employed in a job that will end in 3, 4, 5 years. However, we try to understand the competitive advantage of the World Expo when it comes to a national. And what we have found out that the pride brought them in. So when we told Emiratis, how can we really have a World Expo for the world without you on our land? And that was the trigger, and that was the purpose triggered, because each industry, each sector, each company have their own triggers, have their own competitive advantage. Emiratis are not very different as in talent. Not everybody is driven by maybe purpose, not everybody is driven by salary, not everybody is driven by title. So you really need to find the trigger when it comes to triggering Emiratis to come and work for you. And the Expo is just a very small example. On a macro level, I really wanted to comment on this. How many of you have employment insurance, or signed into the employment insurance in the past 2 years? With the ministry. How many of you have a golden visa? Golden visa in the UAE. Do you feel safe? Have you heard about the UAE's talent agenda or talent vision? The UAE have a talent vision, wanted to be the top 5, if not the top 10, if not the top 5 in really few years, and to become one of the best prosperous land for international or global talent. Yet the UAE is also working on Emiratisation. But how about thinking about it like that? Emiratisation is not a separate agenda. It has to be integrated, inclusive agenda within your organizations to bring your competitiveness and confidence when it comes to the way you do business with your people. And it should not be about a quota, and it should not be about paying back, and it's not a CSR, and it should not be about the right of the people of the land. So I think if you really brought that magic in the way you approach your workforce to attract the top talent for this prospect country under that agenda, and at the same time to fulfill the vision of the country of having their own people being part of that, maybe nobody will really feel left out, and nobody really will feel insecure about their roles, and there is a job for everyone. So imagine that kind of like harmony, and maybe the UAE, which in my perspective stands as the main country example ever, to work on these two agendas, attracting the best out from the world, and also integrating within. And with that, I just wanted to leave that thoughts with you.
Very well said. Thank you. Thank you very much. The last 2 minutes of our panel, we know we have a lot of questions. If you're not able to answer, we'll send the answers back to all of you. We have your data. The last question, and we'll make it quick and finish in 2 minutes for the next panel. Regional talent mobility of nationals. Regional talent mobility. Like Saudis coming to UAE, UAE national going to Saudi, and to different countries. Is that topic gets discussed within the organizations where you work or the companies whom you consult?
I actually was the first Emirati to be hired in the company that I worked with 24 years ago. And after 2 years, I was the first Emirati talent being sent to Oman to do Omanization. after
wow.
have done golfing. So your question actually triggers something that happened to me 20 plus years ago, like ad hocly, and really started building up the experience. Actually, I was hiring for the Gulf, and I was hiring in Yemen and Iran. And if that wasn't done in my younger age, maybe I would have not been able to stand today and claim to be a little bit of an expert in the region. I think it's an excellent and amazing question. The region is not very different than each other when it comes to localization, inclusivity, and diversity, and future potential when it comes to the prospect of this region, not only the UAE or Saudi, but all the other GCCs. And I actually think that will be excellent, and wonder if TASC would really put that in their agenda really pretty soon. Having all that outreach is to convince all these GCC countries to do such a thing.
Sure, thank you.
I always say in GCC we complement each other, honestly. And I believe I do agree with you completely. I think that that kind of topic, definitely we could benefit from each other. We could do certain knowledge exchange from each other. But definitely, as a simple, straightforward answer, I think that would be a great initiative.
Thank you, Fahad.
I will make it very short and sweet. I think your question was whether it gets discussed often. I think my answer is not as often as it should be, but it should definitely be
part of the
prioritized, and something that I personally see a lot of value in terms of aligning, in terms of bringing that harmony and leveraging from the similarities between the countries. And I think it's we have the foundation, which is the regional firms. There's lots of regional firms here operating in the GCC with similar sort of demographics, etc. So why not?
Oh, thank you, Mohammed. With this, we have come to the end of this topic. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for listening. Whatever questions you have sent us, we'll respond back to you. Thank you to the panel.